A handful of ballots cast by members of the military for President Trump were found discarded in Pennsylvania, the Justice Department announced on Thursday. Luzerne County District Attorney Stephanie Salavantis asked the DOJ and FBI to open an investigation into the discarded ballots on Monday, following reports of, quote, potential issues with a small number of mail-in ballots at the Luzerne County Board of Elections, the Department of Justice said in a release. It continued, quote, at this point we can confirm that a small number of military ballots were discarded.
Federal prosecutors in our state say 19 non-citizens are facing voter fraud charges, accused of illegally casting a ballot in 2016. One defendant also was accused of voting in 2018, according to a release from the U.S. Attorney's Office. Some defendants are also charged with related crimes.
As voters get ready to go to the polls tomorrow, a new CBS 2 News investigation found dead people have also voted.
Indeed, or at least votes were cast in their names during the June primary. CBS 2 investigative reporter David Goldstein's here with that. Dave.
Yeah, Pat and Paul, this is our second investigation into this. In May, we uncovered more than 250 names of dead people whose state records show voted in Southern California over the past 8 years. Now we find more, and loved ones are concerned.
Well, honestly, I think she's rolling over in her grave right now.
Kim Holmes is talking about her grandmother, Marge Balicki. She died 15 years ago. This gravestone marks the spot where she's buried at a Burbank cemetery. But we uncovered state records showing a vote cast in Balicki's name in the June California primary.
That's crazy to me. I don't understand that, and I'd like to know who's behind it and how that happened.
And she's not the only one. We compared millions of voting records from the California Secretary of State's office with death records from the Social Security Administration. Last May, we found 265 dead voters in Southern California over the past 8 years. A vast majority of them, 215, in LA County alone. Now we looked at the June primary and found even more. 11 additional dead voters in LA County voted in the primary, and 1 in San Bernardino, bringing the total now to 277 in Southern California. The numbers come from state records that show votes were cast in that person's name after they died. People like Gladys Anderson. She lived in this house in South LA and would be 106 years old today if she were alive. Social Security records show she died in 1997. But state records we found show she voted in the primary. And the LA County Registrar's website says she's still active, still registered to vote.
She lived right here in this apartment.
Her former landlord, Mark Banks, can't understand it.
What do you think about that? I have no idea what to think about that one. I mean, wow. That's a mind blower.
We also found Ruth Bowman's name in state records that show she voted in the June primary. But Social Security records show she died in 1998, 18 years ago. And yes, the registrar's office says she's still registered to vote. Her former neighbor has a theory.
Maybe the ghost.
The ghost.
Probably.
We also found an additional 906 names of dead people in Southern California who are still registered to vote. No votes were attributed to their names, but some are still receiving vote-by-mail ballots like this one for Mary Ellen Parker. It came to her house in Pasadena, even though she died 2 years ago.
She should not be getting a mail-in ballot.
Her cousin Steve now lives in the same house.
We get lots of things with Mary Ellen's name on it. We expect it from dry cleaners and we expect it from insurance agents. We don't expect it from the County of Los Angeles.
Patterson's special election on May 12th was held by mail-in ballots only because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Now a councilman and a councilman-elect are both facing criminal charges for voting fraud. The Vice President of Patterson City Council, Michael Jackson, and Councilman-elect Alex Mendez, both charged with criminal conduct involving mail-in ballots during the city's special elections on May 12th.
I've said it, that I had a suspicion that the integrity of this election was compromised.
In addition to Mr. Jackson and Mr. Mendez, 51-year-old Shalim Khalik and 21-year-old Abu Raisin were also charged. New Jersey Attorney General Gerber Graywall said the Postal Service alerted authorities after hundreds of mail-in ballots were found in a single mailbox in Patterson. Numerous additional ballots were found in another mailbox in a nearby town.
A former elections judge in Philadelphia admitted to accepting bribes to tamper with results of primary elections over multiple years, federal prosecutors confirmed Thursday. Dominic J. DeMuro pleaded guilty in March to conspiring to deprive persons of civil rights and using interstate facilities in aid of bribery, the Department of Justice said in a Thursday statement. He has been convicted for his, quote, role in accepting bribes to cast fraudulent ballots and certifying false voting results during the 2014, 2015, and 2016 primary elections in the city of Philadelphia.
Something is wrong.
This is a photo of what Jerry Mosna found. 2 large stacks of unused ballots on top of the mailbox at his San Pedro apartment building about 2 weeks ago.
Total was 84.
He showed his wife, who said she didn't recognize the names on the ballots. Were they all different names on the 80 ballots?
Yes, all different names.
They were all addressed to one unit where Margot Valenti lives. She found them first, dropped off on her doorstep.
What did you think? Did I live here in my apartment? How stupid.
She says she was so upset that even though she has trouble walking, she carried each stack down to the mailbox.
I just took them downstairs. I don't want nothing to do with that. I voted already.
The Mosnas took action.
We went to police and they told us they cannot do nothing. We have to go to the post office.
They returned the ballots to the post office. Their other neighbor contacted the registrar's office.
Obviously, it's not right and it's corrupt. You know, it's fraud. I just hope they strand it out.
The LA County Registrar Recorder County Clerk told me they're trying to get to the bottom of this, and based on a preliminary investigation, believe this was, quote, an isolated situation related to a system error that occurred, causing duplicate ballots to be issued to an address entered for a single voter. Still, those who discovered the incorrect ballots don't know what to make of them.
Mistake for 80, that's kind of big mistake, strange mistake.
There was so many.
I thought this was a scam or a fraud. Crazy.
Thank you. And now a strange reminder this morning to always check your voter registration. A couple in Georgia got a form in their mailbox addressed to their cat, and their cat had died more than a decade ago. Ron and Carol Tim lost their cat Cody about 12 years ago, in fact, but it appears someone wants Cody's vote in the upcoming election. Carol says she doesn't know how or why her cat was sent the registration form. Oddly enough, she says if Cody were alive and could vote, he'd definitely be politically active today.
He was a Democrat, and Cody was a brilliant cat, and I think he would have voted party with qualifications. There's a huge push, but if they're trying to register cats, I'm not quite sure who else they're trying to register. I don't know if they're registering dogs.
Boston Terriers are all over the walls of Marianne Lucero's Denver home.
That one, my husband Jess and I found in a junk shop.
Even immortalized in orange.
I'd always had Boston Terriers, and he was just an amazing little dog.
But one pup always sticks out.
Moco is a Spanish word that means snot.
Moco was always one of her favorites.
He was just an overall really good dog.
But Moco passed away 18 years ago. And just the other day,
I went to get the mail, and I found an envelope addressed to Moco Lucero. And it says, Dear Moco Lucero, according to our review of publicly available records, you reside in Denver County and do not appear to be currently registered to vote, which is true.
It's from a group called the Voter Participation Center, a nonpartisan group dedicated to getting unregistered voters to register.
Voter registration form with Moco's name already pre-printed on it.
She was tempted to fill it in.
You could list your gender identity, and I wanted to put neutered male and send it back.
But she didn't.
I just was a little flummoxed. You know, I don't know whether to be amused or horrified.
Other headlines this morning, there's an alert over voting irregularities in the United States. In California alone, several counties there have been found to have substantially more registered voters than voting-age citizens. Here's Caleb Mopin with more.
Voter fraud, a subject that's seen fierce debate in recent U.S. politics, with the current president and his opponents trading barbs over it, claims and counterclaims flying back and forth.
Every time voter fraud occurs, it cancels out the vote of a lawful citizen and undermines democracy. Can't let that happen.
The fiction that millions of illegal votes were cast in the 2016 election, it is empirically a stunning allegation for which the White House is providing no evidence.
You have people registered in 2 states. They're registered in New York and in New Jersey. They vote twice.
You mean voter fraud California allows?
I believe there is voter fraud.
A new report suggests that it's an issue that does need to be looked into. The activist group Judicial Watch sent a letter to Californian authorities pointing out a discrepancy between the number of people registered to vote in the state and the total population of eligible voters.
It is urgent that California take reasonable steps to clean up its rolls. We will sue if state officials fail to act.
The greatest discrepancy was in Los Angeles County. According to the report, there are 44% more people registered to vote than eligible citizens living in the county, and that amounts to roughly 1 million people. Now, California isn't the only state facing these kinds of problems. According to the report that was released back in April, over 11 different states have counties with similar discrepancies.